Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and I just installed the McLeod RXT twin disc clutch onto my 04 Cobra, so check the video description for that. But what prompted me to put the new clutch in was actually not the clutch itself, but the throwout bearing. So you can actually disconnect the clutch cable and push the fork back and reach up in and spin the throwout bearing. So that's what I'll do here, and listen to the sound. So that sounds pretty bad. Here's another view of it with the transmission off the car. And if you look closely at the front of the retainer sleeve, you can see some grease buildup that's actually come out of the throwout bearing. And as you see, I'm moving the clutch fork and it is seized up. So basically the bearing will overheat and start to weld itself to the retainer sleeve. So if you don't catch it fast enough, you can actually destroy the retainer sleeve and have it welded on there. At this one, you could tell just from inside the car, you could feel this friction as it's trying to move on the retainer sleeve. And so it was pretty obvious that something was going wrong. And this had happened to my cousins. So my cousin's was literally welded on there. This one has some wear mark, and some of it's normal just from the throwout bearing moving on the retainer sleeve. But you can polish it up and maybe be okay, so it just depends. But on mine, I put a new retainer sleeve on it. But here it is side by side, the old bearing. And notice how it freewheels, and you can hear it too. And this is what a good bearing should look like. It really shouldn't move much at all because the grease is the resistance that's keeping it together. So the bearings aren't just spinning metal on metal. So that's actually what it should look like. So again, the retainer sleeve, I cleaned mine up, and it was actually in okay shape. I could have probably reused this, but I did buy a new retainer sleeve to push in. So I have a video in the video description for that if you want to see that too. But anyway, this is kind of what it looks like, and here's our new retainer sleeve installed. So this is much better installed, and again, you can just see how when you spin the bearing, it doesn't freewheel like the other one. So I wanted to pull the front of this off and just show you what it looks like inside. So we popped off the front cover, and you can see all the bearings. And so this is what the front cover looks like, where those bearings are also riding on the other side. And so this ring here comes out, and each of these little bearings are just pushed into it. And so they're constantly spinning. So you can see here on the rim where that bearing is spinning, and then it's also spinning on the other side of the cover. But yeah, each of these bearings can just basically be popped right out. They're being held in place to keep them separated, but they're supposed to spin constantly. And it's supposed to be packed with so much grease that there's that extra resistance. So if you ever have a throwout bearing whooshing sound, it's probably losing the grease, and they're internally greased, so that grease eventually spews out when it starts to break and overheat. And so then you just have metal on metal, and so you have all the scarring taking place here. So here's again what it looks like back on the bearing. You can see it's just riding on into those little channels, and here these little bearings are just popping out. They've been done. They've left the chat. So anyway, that's kind of how it looks assembled. It's just spinning these bearings, and it should be packed full of grease. So I have some other videos about idlers that are kind of similar to this, and I show a good and a bad one. So check the video description. I'll put the video there. As well as a small clip of it right here, just because it illustrates this point pretty well. So as you can see, trying to spin that with literally no grease in there. Okay, that's what that one looks like. It's pretty much just dry. You can hear the grittiness. So do they still spin? Yes, but there's no grease or anything in there. It's eventually going to be just hot metal on metal. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Check the video description where I'll show you how to replace the throwout bearing and change a clutch. And put a bunch of other videos that are similar to this. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. Thanks, guys.